This is Assumptions 101. Alright, so there's people's knowledge. Lots of people know lots of things that you have no clue about because you're not with them all the time. You don't know what all their interests are, or you just barely know them, so it just doesn't pique your interest what they care about or know about. Now, here in Oregon, we get a lot of people every year who get sick from poison oak. Walking through it, cutting it, burning it. There are a lot of different ways to poison yourself with poison oak. It's also highly toxic. One leaf off of poison oak is enough to kill a grown human being. Just one leaf. It's not the leaf itself, though, it's the oily exterior. Poison oak is the leaves are oily and they kind of look mitten shaped. And of course, let's say you assume you think you know what you're doing. You think you can identify oak, right? You assume that all oaks are the same. Well, then you're not a very good carpenter if you're going to try to build a boat out of a piece of oak just because it's a piece of oak. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You're not doing yourself any good or anyone else any good. If you go out and you saw with a chainsaw and you decide that you're going to knock down one of them old oaks and you're going to make a boat out of it, you're going to be dead before you get home. You might not make it 2 hours before you are a corpse pushing daisies because you made a really bad assumption. What's worse is if you make that bad assumption and it gets somebody else killed. Like, say you want to pay somebody else to knock that tree down. Now, a tree cutter is going to want to know what he's knocking down. And here in Oregon, he's going to know better than to knock down a poison oak. If you're going to do that, you got to do it with the right materials, with the right suit. You got to worry about contamination. See, everything that you touch, if you put on one of those suits that you got to wear when you go cut one of them down, if you touch that suit at all, anything on the exterior of the suit, it's a hazmat suit, basically.
Morning, guys. Morning.
Hey, Jared.
Morning, Sean.
Now, then we've got intent, right? We've got a lot of people who think it's a great idea to go poisoning the homeless. And, they've tried a lot of things, and a lot of things have been successful. Sometimes, there's people that will leave something out of the fridge for a good long while just because they know that it'll collect bacteria. Then they'll put it in a warm bag for a little bit so it'll warm up. Because, if you put it in the microwave, it'll kill most of those microbial organisms anyway. Yeah, that'll make somebody really sick. Now with poison oak, identification, that's your knowledge. What do you know about poison oak? Well, if you know that it'll kill you quick, fast, and in a hurry, you try to avoid it. But then there's people with ill intent. I'm glad none of these hobo haters here grab some of this poison oak and go slip it in the church feed. In Colorado, you got to worry about people doing that with poison ivy. Luckily, poison ivy is pretty well just seasonal. Oak, it's slightly seasonal. The leaves still contain oils even after they've dropped from the tree. The oil doesn't just magically disappear. It's a residue and it remains. Now there's a lot of people in the world who are looking for an excuse to harm people. innocent looking propane tank and all that, right? But then you get the Eric Harrison, Dylan Klebold. Well, that didn't work out as well as they had wanted it to, but they didn't think it out too well. For a good long while there, I was real interested in what was happening in Israel and Palestine. So I paid attention, and you'd be surprised at how much stuff the Israelis are sharing with the world about the rockets that are being sent over there. I don't mean U.S. sending Israel rockets. Israel produces their own rockets, a lot of them. But the rockets I'm talking about are the Hamas rockets. Well, I shouldn't say the Hamas rockets. There's actually 7 different militant groups in Palestine and 3 different governments that can't agree on the color of crap. So that makes it very complicated. Every time Israel makes a treaty or agreement with one, the other great governments say, oh, well, we're the real true government and should have made a deal with us. These are obviously not our friends that you made a deal with, so we're not happy. What's that got to do with the picture on the front of this, the poison oak? Intent. Some people are going to read that and they're going to go, that's pretty interesting, and it's nice to know how those things work. Probably won't come in handy, but it could. And then you get somebody like me who looks at that and goes, man, those are way too easy to make. Those are way too easy to get a hold of. If it's that easy to make and that easy to get a hold of those materials, if I can go out in my backyard and get the materials that they made rockets that'll literally fly 17 miles. Well, yeah, that's something that somebody like me is going to look at and go, well, how are you going to defend people from that? Well, then I look at Israel. What did they do? If the range of the rocket is 2 miles, it used to be just a few hundred yards. Basically about the range of the RPG-7. There was a lot of RPG-2s at the time as well. Now, these are mass-produced, much like the Panzerfaust or Panzerschreck or the Bazooka. They just made a whole bunch of them. And they were throwaways, like the Panzerfaust. And now some people take a look at that and they go, well, the range on that is a maximum of 1,500 yards. And it depends on the world quite a bit. But the thing is, it's not going for miles and miles and miles or anywhere near. So the rockets that were created after that, the Hamas rockets, were able to go up to 2 miles. So the Israelis, they made sure they pushed all their settlements back 4 miles from the border. The border didn't change. It's still in the same place. What they also did was make sure they cleared literally everything on the other side of the border for 4 miles. So now you got a pretty big barrier. The whole goal and intent there is that your settlements are at least twice as far as those rockets can shoot. And also, you're destroying everything on the other side within range of shooting your border. That'll give you a little bit more distance. Well, then you get the rockets that can go 17 miles. Now you're tearing up a lot of territory on both sides. And a lot of people say, oh, look at all this land that the Israelis are occupying. They're not occupying it. There's no Israeli soldiers in the majority of that area. what the Israeli soldiers have done is just steadily, it's kind of like, if you've ever heard of walking fire, this is not like you see the infantry doing, but a walking mortar fire. What happens is you have the mortar fire and the artillery fire firing just ahead of the infantry, and it just continues to walk forward, basically destroying everything in front of the infantrymen. If it's done correctly, it can save a lot of your men's lives while basically eradicating the enemy. If it's badly done, then you're going to end up blinding your own troops with dust and debris. You're going to end up hitting your own troops. It'll be a very bad thing. If you leave your opponent nowhere for him to mass his troops on the border without being seen, you leave him no launch site by the border that is not unseen. Well, that gives you a decisive advantage when you have large groups of people that keep wanting to infiltrate and destroy. They hate you. And that's what it is here in the United States with the homeless. A lot of people don't actually hate us. They just don't care about us. See, all this knowledge doesn't do any good if you're not in the right area, if you're not in the right place, if you're not in the right scenario. For me, I'm not in a scenario to be using rockets. I don't have an intent or a purpose in having them. What are they going to do? You know, I mean, in the least, they're going to do some property damage. No matter what, they're going to do property damage. Even if you make an Estes rocket, it's burning something and it's going to land on something. And if it lands coned down because the top didn't pop off when it was supposed to, it might bury itself in somebody's yard and break a window, pop a sprinkler. You never know. That doesn't mean that it's your intent to do that. But then we've also got situations where it could potentially get worse. Like maybe somebody a couple blocks down is filling up their gas tank, but they're having to fill up one of the things they carry. And as they're filling up the gas, and you launch that thing up and it comes back down and it lands, well, over by the gas station and blows up, ignites them fumes, and that poor guy who's holding that gas can ends up dead, and maybe others as well. Now, this is all just accidents we're talking about here. Over in Israel, those aren't accidents. People hold ill will. And I get to see every day how much ill will is held towards the homeless. I get to come in here and several of them racist old men who come in the morning have some very anti-hobo sentiments. With a lot of the homeless that I've seen here, I understand where their anti-hobo sentiments come from, but I'm still against them. You know, after meeting Robert Farnsworth, yeah, it makes sense why people here would be afraid of him and the many, many, many people here who are like him. Most of them from drug use, most of them traumatized. So, of course, your knowledge, right? Your knowledge of Robert Farnsworth is that he's a scary guy who hurts people, all this, that, and the other. Well, I don't believe that he's somebody who is hurting people because he's a horrible person. He's just detached from reality due to trauma, and trying to bring him back to it is going to require him having a safe place to recover from what he's gone through. Does he have that? Now, he's poison oak. We know that as far as identifying it goes, Everybody should know how to identify it. If you're in the state of Oregon, you need to know how to identify it. But then there's the people who are going to try to pretend like because you know what poison oak is, that you would only know that for nefarious intent. So literally every single person in Oregon has nefarious intent all of a sudden because they have knowledge of their surroundings. Stupid. Very stupid. Some of y'all are quite good at distilling. I'm pretty good at distilling myself. Not professionally, of course, but I did try to get alcohol out of water once. It was a type of alcohol that I was making when I was back in high school. It did not taste very good, so I tried to turn it into alcohol. I was able to get it separated enough that it was flammable, so that successful mission. And I used what's called a candy thermometer for that. And I don't know how much they are now, but I know that that was back in the 90s, and I want to say it cost me like $23 for a good candy thermometer. You do want to get a... God, I should have stuck my fingers in somebody else's eyes. That shit burns. Bright as a box of rocks sometimes. Was my intent to just blind myself? Probably not. Now here's the thing about my intent. It doesn't matter what my intent is. You're just going to assign me one of your own, and I'm never allowed to defend myself against it. I'm never allowed to show any evidence to the contrary. You're not going to look at it. And that's horrible because it's gotten so many people killed. It has resulted in so many of you being victimized by literally the same predators I went to you for help about. Oh, Sean, you just need to let it go. Here we are, years later, and you are whining about those very same people. Like Keith Steinman. What about my older brother, Eric? We got to hear James talking about how broken Eric is. Why wouldn't he be? But also, I know Eric quite well. When it comes down to it, he only cares about one person, and that's him. He doesn't care about his family. He doesn't care about his brothers or his sister. He is kind of a mama's boy, though. The thing is, when it comes to at-risk adults, you pretend that they're able to do all the same things that everybody else is. You pretend that they're allowed the same things as everyone else. You pretend that they have the same opportunities as everyone else. You need to stop pretending. See, that's the difference between assuming and looking it up. How long did it take for Caitlin Tatum to even try looking anything up? Even with me sending her information, desperately trying to get her to listen to me. And all these people want to do is be as inhumane as possible. These aren't good people, and they don't like the fact that I spoke up about it. If you can do the things that Caitlin Tatum did, no, you're not a good person, and you're certainly not a friend. If your friend reaches out to you repeatedly because they are being abused, and no matter what, you can't make the time to give a shit, you can't make the time to help them put a stop to it, you're not a friend, and you never were. Now, with the way the homeless are being disabled, or the way that the homeless are treated out here, and the way that the services are set up out here, yeah, sure, you You try to pretend like there's this glorious free giveaway. Are you kidding me? You come here to be victimized, that's it. State of Oregon doesn't care about the hobos, they care about image. It all comes down to it, just like anywhere else, it's about money. There's a lot of people that I gave my information to. They were going to help, but they didn't help. They took advantage of me and made sure that I was targeted repeatedly. And of course I speak out. Everyone should speak out about things like this. Got my audio recording device here, not much on it. I did call several of the witnesses and of course let them know that I'm still waiting on them to come forward, and I don't mind making 100 more videos about each and every one of you. I believe in doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and looking away from abuse against others is never the right thing, ever, under any circumstances. It's not okay. But what have all of you done? You've turned a blind eye to all of the abuse that I've endured. Rather than help me to turn it in immediately as a friend or family would. You want to tell me how to think and how to feel and argue with me, or say, oh, man, it sucks that happened. It sucks that happened. I'm sorry. Well, I don't need your I'm sorries. A lot of y'all get on here when I'm trying to tell you what's going on and try to get help, and then you want to get on here and tell your stories. Are you trying to get help? Is that what you're trying to do? Is this abuse that you're telling me about, is it ongoing? Are you trying to get help turning it in? If that's your intent, then by all means, let's turn it in. I will help you to turn it in. I will make the calls with you. I will record the situation so you have the evidence. Samuel Leon Lawrence IV and Zaid Atkins both had assistance with that. I did not. You look at the people who assisted those guys with that. It's people like Darren O'Connor, people who had claimed they were going to help me in exchange for information that I had about the other victims. Of course, he should have been helping me anyway. I thought of him as a friend. After all those years out there on the streets and all those years with Darren O'Connor being out there, Marcus Pittman type, there's literally nothing happening. You're doing this to yourself. Now, what do we do with people like this? It's pretty easy. Well, let's make sure we take a screenshot. In the beginning, I thought he were here because he was almost scared as much as I was. Side user on this channel. Blam. Lots of people think that arguing with the victim, talking down the victim, telling the victim how to think and how to feel is how you fix things. No, it's not. That lets the victim know outright that you just straight up don't care about them. They don't matter. They're not a person. When these people claim to be your friends, and then they turn the other cheek, oh yeah, they're not turning the other cheek. They're looking the other way because it's not happening to them. Of course, these people, when they want help, they have people they can go to that'll help them turn it in right away. With me, I have to listen to arguments. People want to argue with me as if I am too retarded to know what abuse is. Over and over and over again. For my entire life. Because retards aren't worth listening to, and that's the category you all stuff me into. Meanwhile, I'm victimized no matter where I go, and you don't want to consider it victimization to be assaulted no matter where I go, to be harassed no matter where I go, to be stuck in public is victimization. Being stuck as a homeless person is victimization. It is non-stop victimization. It is constantly having to look over your shoulder. But then you guys don't consider it victimization because it happened to a homeless person. And you want to tell yourselves that homeless people chose it. See, that's how you guys arm yourself with information. You don't get that information with the intent of helping the victim. You're not interested in helping the victim. You're selfish. You only care about you. You don't come to my channel because you care about me. You come to my channel because you're rats, you're urchins, you're cockroaches, you're cowards. Many victims come to my channel as complete and total cowards, and when they leave, they're still cowards. They come on here to get some sort of validation. This ain't just about validation. If there's stuff on my channel that you can use, well, there's a lot of it that shows that many of the abuses that you other homeless people who get a hold of me have to endure, that it's not just you, that it is a great many people. Your ignorance gets people killed, and you believe it's okay. You believe that as long as you look the other way, then their murderers are not on your hands. No, they absolutely are. You empower the murderers to get away. Now, I did finally get something useful. I had a cane, but it was just too unwieldy, and it wasn't the right length, and it was made of wood, and it's got a weird crook in it. It's just, for self-defense, it's absolutely great. It'd be good for knocking a noggin, but I'm not into noggin knocking. I'm into making the world a better place. I'm into being a peaceful person. Anyway, this is what it looks like. When I walk, I kind of try to glide because lifting my legs a bit too much can result in too much impact and too much pain. Having the cane here makes it easier to stand up and easier to sit down. Two things that are, if I sit down, I might just smack my butt down real hard. Here's this guy typing at me again. He made 2 accounts, same name. That's amazing. We're used to these guys. What do we do? Come on now. There you go. I didn't make this channel for trolls. I didn't make it to be harassed. And if people want to get on here and not be helpful and not be useful and be jerks, they're easy to get rid of. So incredibly easy to get rid of, unlike the predators from real life. If you want to ignore the victim, that shows what a POS you are. And you want to tell the victim that it's their fault, that they needed it, chose it, or deserved it. That shows what a horrible person you are. Am I a horrible person? Of course I am. I give it back. You want to treat me like I chose this? Well, I'll speak out. You want to play victim because I speak out? Well, I'll tear you down to nothing. You ain't the victim here. When I've been victimized and I need to turn in the crimes that are committed against me, and then you want to make it about you. You've assumed too much already. You've assumed that you matter. You don't. You no longer matter once you do that. Once you do that, you've shown the victim that you don't care. That whatever abuse they endure, your words are more important than their experience. Your assumptions are more important than their experience. And then there's the victims you're most likely to do this to. The ones that are homeless and disabled. The ones who are male. They're the most likely to be victimized in this country because they're the ones that you care about the least. When disabled people are abused, it is always your fault. 100% of the time, when a disabled person is abused, it's your fault, not theirs. If you're in the United States and a disabled person is harmed in California and you live in New York City, yes, it is your fault for not caring. Should you care about every single person in California or every single person who's disabled? Well, you don't need to know all their names, but yes, you should. You could become disabled at any point in time. You could get ripped off for everything that you've got at any point in time and end up homeless on the streets. If you have any sort of trauma response to it, well, you're homeless and you're on the streets. People aren't going to feel sorry for you. They're going to take advantage of you. They're going to be angry with you for not being happy about being forced into homelessness. They're going to tell you that you wanted it, needed it, chose it, and deserved it. You did this to yourself. After them and their friends and family destroy your entire life, harass you, threaten you, assault you, threaten to kill your friends and family, and then they're going to play victim because you're the hobo and nobody cares about hobos. Our own families don't care about us because most of the time, the reason we're out here is because we are fleeing abuse from our families. Some of us get real twisted, manipulative families. Like my mom, she was repeatedly molested by her dad growing up. Now the reason she never told on him, knowing that he always had underage girls out there picking rye while he sat on his back tailgate and stared at him like a pervert. Allison Fornatter being one of them. Well, my mom wanted to talk about how horrible her dad was from the time I moved to Nebraska until when I moved out. Her dad just sick this and a sick that and so on and so forth, but she didn't care about those other girls' safety at all, did she? No, what she cared about was that she could extort him for money. Her and my Uncle Greg extorted over $200,000 from my grandpa. I grew up low income. Why? $200,000 is a lot of money. Now then there's, of course, the expenses. A lot of people try to push this housing thing on me. They don't bother to find out what's going on with housing, what the situation is. They don't care. They just want to be as abusive as humanly possible. They want to pretend like, because they said it's an option and that you're just too lazy to take it. No, as an at-risk and disabled adult, I need a friend or family member to care, or this abuse continues. But why do I have to continually go to drug dealers and drug addicts? Why are those the people that I have to go to for help? Because none of the rest of you care. You never did. But then again, those drug addicts and drug dealers don't care either. I mean, they're happy while you're there. That for a time, especially with someone like me, I'm not interested in their drugs, and they know it. So if I'm talking to them, it's because I actually care. Whereas most of their friends only talk to them because, hey, there might be drugs involved. They might be able to get some of those drugs. It's a horrible place to live, the United States. If you're pampered and you have everything all set up already, then the US isn't too bad. If you don't have a good start, like those of us in the system in the 1980s, you don't stop to realize the repercussions for the rest of our lives, and then you want to pretend like it's a choice. Like all of the destruction of our entire future must have been chosen. And then when you have, of course, this guy again typing some more crap. Blam. Man, these guys. The thing is, I shouldn't have had to make a channel, and if any of these people had actually been friends, I wouldn't have. If somebody had actually helped me to turn in the abuse I was enduring before Natalie was killed, none of this would have happened. Every single one of my friends that I went to for help before Natalie was killed stabbed me in the back after she died because they were embarrassed. They didn't care who was killed. They were just lip service. They don't care who harasses me or who threatens me. They're just lip service. Literally every single person who claimed that they cared about me showed that they don't. Because not one of them ever helped me to turn in the abuse. Ever. Not once, ever, did any of them make any attempt to help me to turn in the abuse. Just because somebody says they're going to doesn't mean that they followed through. And to victimize the victim because others didn't follow through is not okay. What my friends did was make sure that I was forced into an unsafe situation because they didn't care who got hurt. They never cared about me as a human being. What they cared about is their prestige and their image. And that's why I show their image so much. Show who they really are and who they have chosen to be. The kind of help that they give their friends is to look away, to make excuses, to let the victim know that the victim is not important. The United States is full of disgusting people, but really, there is nobody on the planet that can really be respected at this point. You're all idiots who listen to idiots and victimize the very people who are doing the most for you. I'm fighting for human rights just by existing, even though I don't want to exist anymore. When I hurt my back in 2015, all of my friends and family showed me that they never cared. They didn't care how much abuse I went through. Most they would do is tell me pretty words. Of course, there's a situation with Miss Peaches thinking that I just needed to get laid. She wanted to set me up with some dating site, so I gave her my information for the internet, for my profile, so that she could do that, because that's the help she wanted to give me. It didn't result in anything good. What it resulted is me being constantly spammed by sex sites. No, I don't need that, Peaches. It was a good idea, but it wasn't the help that I needed. It didn't make it so I could safely see my friends or family, and it didn't get her to listen to what the problem is. When you call somebody a friend, you stop and consider what that actually means, what that actually entails. You stop and consider what you expect out of your friends, and then show how it is that you treat those who you call friend when they need that help. The rules are different for you than they are for them, aren't they? Between listening to the victim and making any excuse, you make any excuse. It's pathetic.